What is up, guys? Stark here. I am back for another Fate video, and in today's video I am going to be talking a little bit about the GSSR we have for the new year. So pretty excited for it, honestly. As tradition in Fate Grand Order, New Year's comes with a guaranteed SSR Servant banner. These are going to be 15 paid Saint Courts, and you'll be able to recruit a, well, you don't pick the Servant, like you have to pull on the banners, but this year it's going to be broken down into classes. Well, I think it always is, but it'll be broken down into classes, and we're going to go ahead and talk about each of those individually a little bit, and kind of just give you guys something of an idea of what your plans are for the GSSR. I'll talk about my plans a little bit as well. First up, though, you guys can see on the screen here, I do have some of the graphics on the screen right now. You'll see some colors, you'll see some other things. First of all, the colors do not correspond to their class type. If it does, that's purely coincidental. What it is red is pretty much the characters that I'm really not interested at all. Blue are like the medium chance characters, like okay characters, and the green ones are going to be like the high ticket characters that you should be looking for. And then any of the characters that have the little Saint Court on them, that indicates how many banners that character will have available throughout the course of the year to pull on. So that does have something of a heavy opinion on people's GSSRs. Like you guys can see on the screen there, Astolfo has 2 banners this year that will be available for him to be pulled on, so that could definitely sway your opinion. If Astolfo was the character you really wanted for your GSSR, then maybe you're gonna hold off on pulling for them there and look at going for a different banner. Anyway, though, guys, we aren't going to waste too much time on this. We're just going to go ahead and give a general overview of it. Of course, we're going to start with Sabers, as is tradition here. I do think there are 2 really good Sabers available in Musashi and Okida. Both fantastic characters, some of the best Sabers in the game. And I guess I should point out that you can only pull limited time servants on this banner, so story-locked characters are not going to be available as your GSSR, as well as non-limited characters, they're not going to be on there. And so it's going to just be one of the characters listed on the screen. The only downside to pulling on the Saber banner is that there are so many characters, and there's a lot of misses on this here. So Sigurd, Astolfo, Arthur, Shiki. Now Shiki's a little bit of an exception because she's really popular, and she doesn't come back very often, but I guess you could try and pull for her for like just to get her type of thing. But if you're looking at it as far as gameplay and stuff, not really the best character out there. But you do have a couple hits with Musashi and Okida. You have some okay characters with Benny Enma and Nero Bride. So it's about a 50-50 chance from hitting like a decent character as opposed to a, I don't want to say bad character. Like, the characters aren't bad, but they're just not characters that I would be recommending you pull for to get on the GSSRs. Like, I'm sure there are people out there that are going to, and if you want to, like, that's fine, but like, I don't recommend pulling on the Saber GSSR to try and get King Arthur. Like, obviously he doesn't have any banners this year, and if that's your reasoning, like, if you just want him because he's a new character, then that's cool, that's fine. But if you're looking for help, then I don't really recommend that. That's kind of where these rankings come into play at. But yeah, at the end of the day, I really don't recommend pulling on the Saber banner unless you're specifically looking for a 5-star Saber. If you don't have one, then by all means go for it. And that'll be the same for all of these. Like, if you don't have one and you need to do it to fill a need, then by all means go ahead and pull for that class. Alright, so we're moving on to the Archer class, and Archers are pretty well balanced. You do have 1 red in the Archer of Shinjuku. Although, in my personal opinion, if I pulled for the Archers and I got him, I'd actually be happy because he's the only one that I need, and he's the one that I want the most. So, in that situation, for me, personally, I'd be very happy getting the Archer Shinjuku. And honestly speaking, I am kind of tempted to try and go for it. But at the same time, the odds are pretty low, like 1 in 6 of being able to get him. And I wouldn't really be disappointed with too many of the other characters. And that's the good thing about Archers. Like, all those characters are pretty good. Like, you have Summer Artoria, who's really good, Super Orion, who's really good, Gilgamesh and Ishtar are also both really good, and so is Summer Joan. The only drawback is that 3 of those characters are recruitable this year. So you have a 50% chance of getting a character that you could pull for later on in the future. Now, if you do get those characters, you could always just save yourself time and effort in a future banner. So that's also something to consider. But for me personally, I might go and try and take that 1 in 6 shot to get the Archer Shinjuku, but I still haven't ultimately decided where I want to go for the GSSR yet. Alright, next up we have Lancers, and for Lancers there's only 4 characters in the pool. You have Brynhild, Ereshkigal, Skahak, and Tamamo, and all 4 of them are all really good characters. If you don't have a Lancer, this is a really good opportunity to get a really good Lancer. And the only real drawback here is that 3 of the 4 of them are also available outside of the GSSR, and that's kind of what's holding me back from actually doing this. I've been saying for a long time I'm going to pull GSSR for Brynhild, and I still probably will, but I'm kind of second guessing it because, you know, I don't want to pull Tamamo. Like, if I pull her, I'll be really disappointed. And getting a Skahak would be nice, but she has 3 banners this year. So if I really wanted an MP level up on Skahak, I could go for that. Same thing with Ereshkigal. If I really truly wanted to MP5 her, I could go ahead and just pull on her banner. And of course, Brynhild has her own banner too, so I could also just pull for her on that banner and go with my GSSR somewhere else. So those are the options I'm strongly considering. But at the end of the day, if you do pull Lancer, you're not going to be regretting it. Only a 25% chance to get one of the ones you want. So that's probably the best odds you're going to find in the GSSR for Lancers. Moving along to Riders, and Riders are kind of balanced there. They don't really have any like top tier characters. They do have one low character in Iskander. You could argue that Summer Artoria is kind of in the same tier. I did put her up a little bit because she's a summer character, and that does mean a lot for a lot of players in the game. But yeah, me personally, I actually need the most out of this banner. I need Iskander and Ivan. So the odds of me getting a new character on this banner would be the highest if I pulled for Riders. But I'm probably just going to skip. Like, I just don't want to pull Da Vinci or Rhinus or even Maid Artoria again. Like, I really would be very disappointed if I pulled any of those 3. Not to say they're bad characters, but I have all 3 of them, and if I pull for Riders, I'm gonna want to get Iskander or Ivan, because they don't really come back often, and you guys can see that they don't have banners this year either. So I might eventually have to just go for the GSSRs to hope I can get them. It's just the other characters just aren't really that appealing to me. Next up we have Casters, and Casters is kind of where your priorities kind of get tested a little bit. So you have Merlin and Scotty in this, so 2 fantastic characters, and if you don't have either of them, then that should be enough to consider it. At the very least, consider pulling for this, like on the Casters. If you can bag either Merlin or Scotty for the GSSR, that would be a huge win for you. At the same time, though, you do also have 2 like dud characters, so to speak, in Ilya and Murasaki. You have okay characters in Da Vinci and Nero, but also both of those have banners later on. So this is kind of like a high risk, high reward situation. Could go either way for you. Now, if you don't have like Murasaki or Ilya or Da Vinci or Nero Bride, and you don't have Merlin, like either, like if you don't have these characters, you could end up being pretty good there with just pulling for a new character. But it's risky. It's risky. You have like a 2 in 6 chance of getting like a really good, like one of the best characters in the game, and then you also have like a 2 in 6 chance of getting someone not so great. But yeah, Merlin, Scotty, if you could get either of those, that would be a definite win in my opinion. Next up we have Assassins, another 6 character banner here. Again, another pretty balanced pool. You have Kama up there is the top, in my opinion, for the Assassins available. Cleopatra, Hassan, and Shooting Doji there, kind of like same tier, and then Mysterious Heroine X and Semiramis in the rear. You do have a lot of these Assassins rated up this year as well, so you could opt to skip again for that, especially Kama. She does have her rerun a little bit later on in the year, so that's a potential option there. You always want to kind of default to characters that have their own banners, and in my opinion, I always try and pull for new characters on GSSRs, and I look to see what gives me the best odds for that. Now sometimes there's just like you just need like one character, like me for Brynhild for example. I have 3 of the Lancers. I need Brynhild, so you know it's a 25% chance of trying to get her, and you know For me, that's pretty good odds. But if you're like a free-to-play or something like that, then obviously you're not going to look at like, oh, well, this character has a future banner, because you might not want to pull on that banner. You might want to try and get the character now in order to save your quartz for like the anniversary for like Caster Tori or something like that. So that definitely has a big sway on that. I'm not free-to-play, so like I look at it like, oh, well, she has a banner later on. I could just pull for her then. And that kind of how I make my decisions. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Berserkers. Moving on to Berserkers, and I do feel like a lot of people might go for this because of Arjuna Alter. If you missed him the first time around, this is pretty much the only opportunity to get him. There are other GSSRs later, of course, that you could try for, but you know, if you don't have him, definitely consider pulling for him. You could end up like flopping and getting like Toshizo or I don't even want to say Raiko's bad, because if you don't have Arjuna Alter and you get Raiko, then she's really good too, but she's really outclassed by Arjuna Alter. So, you know, me personally, I don't have Raiko or Kintoki, so I could go for it, but I really don't need to. I don't need to pull Arjuna Alter. I really don't want to pull another Summoner Musashi. And the only reason why she's a blue tier is because she will get a lot better with Artoria Caster, and you know, some people might want to go for that option instead and just use Summer Musashi. But I do think you need her MP2 for that. So if you have her MP1, then maybe it's a consideration to try and go for that. Maybe get Arjuna Alter, maybe get Raiko, maybe end up getting that MP2 Musashi. Pretty good odds there if that is your situation. And for me, like, if I get Kintoki, I'd be happy, because then I get him and I can use his costume later on. Alright, next up, we're moving on to the first of the two extra class banners, and this one is kind of another one of those dilemma banners. So it has a lot of characters. It has the most tied with the Sabers class, and there's a lot of good in this, and there's also a lot of bad in this. So the good, you have Dante's and Space Ishtar. So Dante's is really good for Scotty farming, and Space Ishtar is optimal for Artoria Caster farming. So if you can get either of those two, then you're going to be in really good shape for the meta. Dante's until we get to the anniversary, and then Space Ishtar from there on. So that's like another really good high risk, high reward situation. But there are a few other options in here. You can get Jalter, who is still a pretty good character. Mothman's really good as well, more so to like just like surviving and like soloing and stuff like that. But still a pretty good character there. He does have two banners though, so that could be a little bit of a drawback. And unfortunately, the only two really good characters in this don't have banners. So it kind of like forces your hand if you want either of them. You can't wait for their banner because they don't have one, and every other character has their own banner. So, you know, it could put you in a bit of a sticky situation. And the fact that there's 7 characters in this banner as well makes it really difficult to kind of get the one you want. But ultimately, these GSSRs are just gambles anyway, to just hope you get what you want and kind of settle for something else. So whatever's going to give you the least punishment is really where you should end up going. And then finally, for Extra Class 2, personally, I feel like you should just avoid this one. Unless you don't have any of those characters and you really want one of those characters, then you can go for it. Melt is probably the best of the batch, but she does have her own banner. And, you know, Abby's, in my opinion, Abby's really not worth pulling for. Hokusai is pretty good, but she doesn't have a banner this year. And a 1 in, 6 chance? Sorry, 1 in 7 chance. Just really not, the odds of pulling her aren't that good. And then you have a lot of like bad in this banner. Like Summer BB's not really that great. King Protea's not that great. Okita Alter's really not that great. I like her personally, but she's not that great. Kiara's pretty good, but she's ultimately not that great. And she also does have 2 banners. So at the end of the day, I really feel like unless you don't have any of these characters and you really just want to get a new character, you probably just want to steer clear from this one. But yeah, guys, that's a little bit of an overview for the GSSR, in my opinion anyway. If I had to pick, though, I still think I am leaning towards Lancers here, but the Archer and the Rider are definitely like a close second and third. I really do want to get all the characters this year, and the only way I'm going to end up doing that is by pulling for the Archers and getting Archer Shinjuku, and then pulling for the Riders and getting Iskander and Ivan as well. So like I have 3 characters that aren't coming out this year, and I need to figure out a way of getting all 3 of them. So it's going to be tricky for me, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments down below which GSSR you guys are looking for. What characters specifically are you guys looking for in those banners? And if you did like the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next episode of the 25 Days of Fate.